And I was always one of those kids. I never thought that I knew it all, right? I was coachable, and I think that's always been a big thing for me on the field and off the field.
That was Marcus Trufant. Born and raised in Tacoma, Washington, Marcus played college football at Washington State University, where he became one of the top defensive players in the nation. After being selected by the Seahawks in the first round of the 2003 NFL Draft, Marcus quickly established himself as a key player in the Seahawks defense, earning a Pro Bowl selection in 2007. Marcus's journey from the NFL to becoming a successful entrepreneur and community leader is truly inspiring. He's here to share his story. Welcome to the Iron Mind Podcast. Join me, Josh Brumley, as we explore the minds of those who forged their paths through legal battles, business triumphs, and creative conquests. We uncover the stories behind their iron wills and innovative minds. Get ready for thought-provoking conversations, practical insights, and actionable advice. This is the Iron Mind Podcast. Thanks for joining us, Marcus.
Excellent. Then I say thanks for having me. Are we on now?
Yeah,
We're
rolling. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. This is the real deal now.
All right.
So tell us a little bit about Tacoma life, about being a Tacoma local, about being a Tacoma celebrity, being down for our town the way that you always have been.
Tacoma is a special place, man, and big shout out to Tacoma 253 stand up. You know what time it is. But yeah, man, just starting my sports journey, traveling around a little bit, and I always rep Tacoma. I always tell people I'm from Tacoma, and sometimes they're like, oh, like, what part of D.C. are you from? I say I'm from Washington, and they're like, okay, they just assume because they're like, okay, you don't play any sports over on the West Coast. It's not going like that. There's no talent over there in the West Coast. So I always have a chip on my shoulder, right?
Yeah.
So I always wanted to prove people wrong, but that's just the grit of the city, man. And I think everybody has a little bit of that. Just how you rep for the city, and just speaking for me and my brothers and my family, we wanted to show and prove that there's a lot of talent coming out of Tacoma, Washington. And there's so much love down there.
Yeah.
Every city, of course, has its things, but when it comes to Tacoma, we support our own. We take care of each other, and we really make it happen, man. It's a difference.
Yeah.
That's why I talk to people, and I say that I'm from the Seattle area, but then I always follow up. Okay, it's about 45 minutes south of down to Tacoma because it's different, right?
Yeah,
and
you
no
don't
knock
claim
on
Seattle, you
but
claim Tacoma.
But it's different. But I love Tacoma. Tacoma has always taken care of me, so I've always felt like I needed to give back to the city and support the city, and that's what I try to do.
Well, being from Tacoma, there's a lot of people listening to this podcast who are from Tacoma or the surrounding areas who see someone like you on a trajectory from just being a local guy to being this successful, NFL superstar on TV. Like, what was that progression like? What were some of the challenges that you faced being from Tacoma as a young person to get to that level of success?
Right. There was trials and tribulations all the way through. Nowadays, when I talk to kids or I go out and speak at different high schools and stuff like that, I always talk about the highlight film and what people see and what they think the process is, or what they think it looks like to become a pro athlete, to become a lawyer, to become a doctor. There's a long road of disappointments. There's a long road of heartache. There's stress. There's pressure. There's all these things, but most of the time, the thing that separates those people that have this dream, and I hope and pray that one day I can get to this, is that there's no quit along the way. And it's no matter what happens, right? You have to find a way to get through all of the trash, all the nasty stuff, and then you get to the promised land, and then you get to that goal. But it was just one of those things, man. My family is very important to me, and I'm talking about mom and dad and, of course, my brothers. But there was just so much love and support, right? I didn't always do well in school. I almost flunked out of college my first year. A lot of people don't know that, and that doesn't work, of course, when you're on scholarship. You got to make your grades, or you're not going to be there long, right? Just a lot of stuff, man. I had a nice childhood growing up in Tacoma, man. There's always things going on in families, but overall, lovely family, man. Had a 2-parent household, and just a lot of love and support from like teachers, coaches. And I was always one of those kids. I never thought that I knew it all, right? I was coachable, and I think that's always been a big thing for me on the field and off the field, right? And I know we'll probably talk about that later, just the transition and what the transition and what that looks like. Yeah. But overall, man, it took my lumps, it took my bumps and bruises, man, but I never quit. And I still got that mentality to this day, man.
And now you're telling us from that promised land, that dream that you had, that you've achieved and you've surpassed, and that's just really inspirational for a lot of people who are listening to this. Like the next Marcus Trufant might be just a 6th grader, right, stumbling onto this podcast on Instagram, and this might change his whole life. This little conversation we're having, man. So thank you again for being here. What was being a Seahawk like? Because that is like such a crazy, like, just I've known you now from the circles of Tacoma and all this, but having someone on my podcast who's been like, yeah, man, I was just in the NFL, no big deal. Like that's crazy. Yeah, this is awesome. Right. So tell us about it. What's the behind the scenes of being in the NFL like? Like, what can you tell us? Shine a light in that for people who might never see it.
Right. Yeah. So we're gonna go under the helmet.
Under the helmet. I love it. Okay.
Being a Seattle Seahawk, or I guess I got to take it back to draft day, right? Mm-hmm. Draft day, family. The city of Tacoma is going crazy, man. I did a big party downtown Tacoma that is, or what was called Jillian's at the time. Uh-huh. And that's no longer there, but it was packed out, man. I had a hotel down the street just so I didn't have to feel all the pressure of the room. Everybody's watching the screen and doing all that to see who gets called, and that's a lot of pressure for a young man. So me, my mom, and my brothers, we all went to.
How old were you when you had that party?
Had to be 21, 22.
Yeah.
Yep. Had to be 21, 22. I remember because shortly before that, I had my 21 run while we were at a bowl game, and the older guys, it took me to a bar, and I did my thing as a 20-year-old. Or
probably will.
A 21-year-old is going to do, but the next day at practice, all the coaches knew too. So they took it light on me and didn't have me running around and doing a bunch of stuff. And that helped me, of course. But, so I was a young man, but it just a dream come true, man. I was picked in the first round. I was picked 11th overall. And to be drafted to the home team, man, it was just a dream come true.
I got chills just now. I got goosebumps.
But, I mean, it's all I known, right? So just to understand just the love and the support you get, and you come back and you see people, everybody in the city is wearing your jersey. All your teachers get to support you that you grew up with. All those coaches, all those mentors that I had as a young man from the Boys and Girls Club, they're all there to support me. They're coming to games, they're doing all that kind of stuff. But one thing is, I did have to buy a ton of tickets, right? There was a lot of years where I had to spend a lot of money on tickets, but I usually did it through my nonprofit, and it usually worked out, man. It all comes back to the kids. But it really worked out. But playing in the NFL in general was a dream of mine, and it's something that as a young man you really don't realize exactly where you're at and what you're doing, right? Because you go through this phase of this Superman complex. I can't be stopped. Mm-hmm. I feel great, man. I'm in the best shape of my life, man. It's always going to be like this. You're kind of having those type of conversations with yourself. But just going through the process of meeting people, to learning the sport, and then you're learning the business side of sport. It was just a great experience, man. And of course, there's pros and cons. There's stress that comes with the game. There's injury that comes with the game. But overall, man, going to the NFL is not a process that everybody gets to do, of course, when you look at the numbers and the percentages and stuff like that. So those parents that are out there that are forcing their kids to go to camps and to do all this kind of stuff, usually it doesn't happen that way. The game kind of chooses you, right? Mm-hmm. If you love it, if you put your life into it, man, and you go hard, somehow, some way, the game is going to figure out a way to find you. So all that to say, man, it's been a lovely ride, man. I'm still on it, man. I know I'm retired now. I still do a ton of stuff with the Seahawks. I'm out in the community talking to the kids through the Seahawks. They call us the legends instead of calling us the old guys that don't play no more. And you know what I'm saying? But the overall experience is just great, man. I'm still here. I'm still in the community, and I wouldn't change it for anything.
That's so exciting, man. I do have to ask one question. If you could go back in time and change, would you be a Husky, or are you proud of being a Cougar? Because I'm a Husky, dude. I
see the purple tie. I can see the purple tie. Yeah, I wasn't gonna say nothing about it, but yeah. But man, I got love for the Huskies, right? Mm-hmm. Because my youngest brother is a Husky. I got a lot of friends that went to UW, of course. And then my middle brother Isaiah is an Eastern Eagle, right? Mm-hmm. So I got love for them as well, and that's closer to Pullman. But I got so much love for Pullman, man. If you haven't been to Pullman to experience that, you will never understand what it's like to be out there with a bunch of kids that are trying to find themselves. Everybody is kind of going through the same process. It's not a lot to do out there, so you do things together, and you build these tight-knit type of relationships, man.
Right.
And all the guys that I played with out there were still close, man. We talk on group chats and stuff. Everybody got their families, and we follow each other around. But the Pullman experience is something different, man. And you have to grow up. You have to become a man out there and just kind of be able to sit with yourself, right? And to be able to sit with your thoughts and to figure out a way to grow and get through it, man. I was close enough to mom and dad that they could come see me for every game, but I was far enough away that I had to take care of my own business, right? So there's no way I would trade my Pullman experience to go to UW. There's no slight on UW. And even though they did call me when I was going through the recruiting process and they said they were filled up at my position, right?
Oh, wow.
So I took the next best thing.
Damn.
And I went with Washington State, man. They came to the house. They had some shrimp and gumbo and stuff that my pops had whipped up, man. And after that, it was all she wrote, man. And
that's crazy.
And they offered me a full ride scholarship.
That's so incredible, man. So tell us about what, looking back on being like in the Pro Bowl, being a Seahawk for so many years, and being so successful in like what could potentially be like the best time to be a Seahawk, right? Like, hopefully not, but right now it feels like, man, those were the good, like everybody was like showing up, chanting your name. Like, what were some of the highlights of that time of your life?
Just being that support from the community, man. I had my nonprofit. I was playing sports, man. I had my mom and my parents. Everybody was involved, man. The family was involved. It was a family thing, right? And we were doing these events, man, and the town and the city would show up. And everything was going great on the field, right? We didn't get that first Super Bowl, but I was a part of the first team that went to the franchise's first Super Bowl against the Pittsburgh Steelers. A lot of people like to forget that one. And that's me being one of those people. But, yeah, man, it was the time of my life, man, and the only thing that I wish I would have done was kind of sit back and kind of smell the roses a little bit, right? Of course, that's hard to do during the situation of when you're in it and you're living it, but yeah, man, it was a great time, man, and just going to the Pro Bowl and seeing all these guys that I grew up watching, man. I'm out there with guys like Ray Lewis. I'm out there with Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, T.O., all these guys that that I watched, of course, as a young man, like,
Yeah.
man, I feel like I've made it. From Tacoma, always been on the underdog type of energy, and now I get to play on the same field as the guys that are like the Mount Rushmore of sports, man. And it was a big deal. And again, you're kind of in this thing that you really don't realize it until you're done with it. Like, man, that was really a big time thing, right? Mm-hmm. And back then it wasn't so much of the cell phones and the selfies and the pictures and all that kind of stuff. I wish I had more film and just a better way to document that. But hell of a time, man. And blessed and just thankful for all those opportunities, man. And I just hope that I can give back to the young players and just let players know that, you got to take time to enjoy the things that you've accomplished, right? Don't be so locked in or be like, all right, I got to be even killed and all that kind of stuff. That's true, but you still got to find a way to enjoy.
Take a moment.
Still find a way to smile through it or laugh and really enjoy it, man. And that's really what I wish I would have done more. But yes, man, it was a darn good time, man, and I'm very thankful for it.
Yeah. Follow-up question. Is Tacoma the best city in the country, or is it the best city in the world? Because it's between those two for me. I just don't know. Is it the best city in the world?
Love it, yeah.
Or just the country? Because, I mean, it's definitely one of the two, right?
Tacoma is everything, man. I will take it a step further, and Tacoma is the best of everything in this galaxy, right? Just
wow. Big words here.
Right, and that's big words, but I think that's how we feel being from Tacoma, and I think that's a universal thing. So I think is power in that. Of course, you hear about people and they rep their cities and they do all of this different stuff, but to be the underdog in most situations, that's how people treat us, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm not crying about it. That's just the way it is, right? No. And to me, it just fueled my fire to want to do more. So there is something special about Tacoma. There's so much talent down there. Do we always get the exposure that we need down there? No, but that's something that that myself and you are going to work on, man. And we're going to shine a light, and we continue to just let people know that it's going down in Tacoma.
Absolutely. I think that the description of it motivating you, like being from Tacoma and being seen as like Seattle. No, not Seattle. We're talking about Tacoma. It's a motivating factor for a lot of people in our city to be so proud of this city, even though it's such a down-to-earth like group of people. Like the mayor of Tacoma hanging out at a bar and being loud and obnoxious, and me kind of heckling her without knowing that she was the mayor of Tacoma. And she said, "Do you know who I am?"
Right.
In Victoria. She's just a very down-to-earth person, and everyone from Tacoma is like that. They're so approachable. They're so real, and that's something that I think the bigger the city, the harder it is to find real people like that and to have community that seems big and small at the same time. But Tacoma does it right.
Right. Yeah, man. The special thing about Tacoma is that it is a melting pot, right? Mm-hmm. And you got the Army base there, and you got people coming in from a little bit of everywhere. But there's just something that's gritty about it, right? Yeah. And
the pollution in the Theophos waterway.
Right. No, I'm not talking about that though, man. I'm talking about the mindset and everything that comes with it, man, and just continuing to push forward and to ride together, right? Mm-hmm. And we know what time it is. We know that there's all type of nicknames, man. You got the Tacoma Aroma, you got Tacky Town, you got all these little things and the little jokes, right? But again, I think we use it as fuel. I know I did. And when you correlate it to sport, that, okay, if everybody's going to be looking down on you, I'm going to build up this thing and I'm going to be like, okay, I'm going to show you. I'm not going to talk. I'm not going I'm not
argue
gonna
about it.
I'm not gonna argue. I'm just gonna show you, and I'm gonna make it
Actions.
happen. And that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, man. No, I think a lot of people who are successful in what they do have some driving force that is so much more powerful than just like waking up one day and saying, I think I want to be in the NFL. Like there's something that's like pushing them, pulling them, driving them to be the most successful version of themselves, whether it's sports or in an industry or a trade. Like I'm so passionate about this thing that like I wake up excited every day that I get to do my passion. And for people who don't have that, how can you or I or just anyone inspire people to find what they're passionate about, to be able to wake up and say, man, I can't believe I'm in the NFL now, but they didn't want to take the risk or do the work. You know, how do you light that fire for people?
I've had this conversation a couple times, man, and whether it's with my kids or it's with my wife or it's just with some friends or just some people in the streets, right? You have to be able to be okay with failing at something. Mm-hmm. You have to be okay with trying something to be like, okay, this wasn't really what I thought, man. You got to take the shots. You got to take the shots. You got to get your shots up and just start trying things, man. And eventually there's something that's going to stick with you and be like, okay, this really, I'm really getting fed from this. And this is a good look for me. I like this. I wake up every day and I'm excited about this. And sometimes it's not always about the money, but if you're doing something that you love, usually you're going to find a way to flip that or make it work so you could use that as your main source of income, right? So it's really just about getting the shots up and just trying, man, and just seeing what's out there.
I think another thing that really resonated with me about your story is when you bring the family and the foundation, the people who are so pivotal, like it wasn't their goal for you to be successful. It was they get to be a part of how can I support you in this process. And that really resonated with me. My family is a big part of my law firm. You know, my mom is here all the time.
Nice.
My cousin's here all the time.
Right.
My sisters, like I've got 4 younger sisters, and every one of them has been a part of the law firm in some iteration over the years. And it takes like a lot of people to build something that's got the momentum that we're feeling as a law firm now. And what you described is just like so important. So if people are listening to this and they're like, man, I just wish I had this like network of people to support me, how can you encourage people to have those conversations? Like if they don't have a network of parents that are supportive or they're being pushed to do something that they're not passionate about, what would you say to those people?
You got to find your group, or you got to find people that are really down with you. And that's easier said than done, of course, right? Because you can't pay everybody out of the gate. And that's usually where family comes in, because family's going to support you regardless, right? So you want to find your tribe, you want to find your group, and you want to find your team that is really down, right? So I did that, and that was mom and dad out the gate, right? Mm-hmm. And they've always had my back, from student of the month, from school to showing up for all my sports games and Little League, just all the way through the love and support, for being there with me through college, to being there when my kids are born, when I get married. So it's always been the love and the support, and that's what you need out the gate. And you got to get with people, you got to get with family that truly supports you and they love you, and it's not about the clout. I mean, it's not about the money they can make. At first, of course, everybody wants to make money, and we understand that, but sometimes you got to jump out on faith, man, and just put the time and the energy in, take your shot, and just see what sticks.
Absolutely, man. That's so powerful. You mentioned it. We haven't talked about it yet. You're a married man. You're a family man. Obviously, your mom and dad were super pivotal. When did you meet your wife? How did you know she was the one? Like, tell us a little bit about that.
Right.
Man.
Yeah. So my wife, a friend that she went to high school with, she attended Washington State. And then I graduated and I got drafted to the Seahawks. That friend, she became a Sea gal. And so she was the friend of my wife from high school. So we all kind of started hanging out together in these big groups, right? And I know that's against the rules, right? The players can't really hang out with the cheerleaders no more, right?
Oh, no, I didn't know that.
Things have changed,
Okay.
right? Yeah,
Well, you ruined it for everyone.
That was a long time ago. But, so, I mean, I met my wife, and I was like, who's that? You got to hook me up, right? You got to introduce me. And so, of course, my wife, being who she is, was like, oh, okay, not really interested, right?
Yeah.
Right. But I was persistent, right? And we it continued to hang out in groups and do all that kind of good stuff. We went on the date. She made up a story of why she had to leave early on the first date.
No,
so yeah, I got no shame, right?
She did you like that?
Yes.
Wow, dude.
Yes, she did do me something like that. But the thing about her is that she was so different, right? There was nothing about the sport that she was impressed by, and so she was just taking her time, right? So just me being me, I wasn't pushy, but I was persistent, right? And eventually, like, we had stopped talking for a while, and that's when she said, okay, I'm wondering where this guy is. I haven't heard from him for a while, right? And that's kind of when we came back and rekindled, man, and we start talking again. We start dating. We start hanging out more, and I haven't left her side since. And we've been married for 16 years.
Wow.
She's a beautiful lady. She's very, very family, just involved in the family, man. We have 5 children, and she is she's the glue.
Yeah.
She's the glue that it keeps everything going, man. The kids, they come to her for everything. I'm kind of like the assistant, right? Yeah, I feel like the assistant, but she does so much.
She'll tag you in.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm too tired to deal with this. You go do this one.
But she does so much, man. She is great. She's a hard worker, and she's a fighter, man.
Yeah.
She's been through a lot in her life, and just in general, man, you know, we all kind of struggle with different things, man, just being depressed, or it could be mental health, it could be anything, but it just continues to push forward, and she's in a place now that where she is someone to look up to. I've always looked up to her, but now she's in a space to where she can look at herself and be like, okay, I'm doing a good thing. I'm doing okay, and I just really can love and appreciate everything that she brings to the table, because she's a superstar. I tell her that all the time.
Oh, man, that's so exciting. Yeah. That's so exciting. You guys have a podcast, right?
Yes, we do have a podcast.
Tell us about the podcast.
Yeah, our podcast is called Truly Unruly, right? And Truly Unruly, that's, of course, a spin on the name, Trufant, but 5 kids, being married for 16 years, ex-NFL athlete husband, and a wife that has to deal with all the foolishness that comes with that, I guess the good, bad, and the ugly, and just a little bit of everything, man. And we have a blast on that show. Every time we record, it's like, I think it's like date night, right?
Yeah.
Another time and opportunity for us to talk, just an opportunity for us to laugh, for us to talk about some real issues. We talk about relationships. We talk about raising kids. We talk about everything under the sun, right? But a great way to poke fun at yourself, but at the same time give back to other couples that might be going through a lot of the same stuff that we've been through.
I think that's really exciting. I'm a single guy, but I think that it just
take your time. Yeah. Stay single.
Yeah. We'll cut that part out of the podcast. Your wife won't see that one. It's just so exciting to meet people who have achieved a level of success and it never really changed who they were. And you've got this reputation of being a very down-to-earth, regular Tacoma guy, and that's just so inspiring for people. And that's just so important for people to see that and to see beyond just your success in football, but your success in family and relationships, man. So thank you for putting a magnifying glass on that part of your life with her. That's, I mean, as a single guy, I'm still like, wow, this is so impressive. Right. He's so in love with his wife, and he's doing so many cool things, and that kind of success can like blind people to what they have, and that hasn't happened for you, and that's so exciting. Jacksonville, what do you like? What do you hate? I actually, So I went to law school in Jacksonville.
Okay.
I got my MBA from Jacksonville University. And when I moved to Jacksonville, I got to admit, listen, I wasn't the biggest NFL guy. I grew up with a single mom. I didn't even have a dad. So, like, football was like, yeah, football is cool, but, like, I wasn't, like, the football kid, you know? And when I moved to Jacksonville, I was like, you guys have an NFL team? I didn't even know the Jaguars existed. And then I went to a Jaguars game, and I was like, holy shit, everyone loves the Jaguars here. This is a big deal down here. I was behind. Do you think Jacksonville has a lot of the similarities that, like, Tacoma has in that grit and being like a younger city to like Miami, Orlando, like the Seattles of Florida? Like, it's just a little unknown.
Right. Well, yeah, my experience in Jacksonville was I didn't know exactly what I was getting into, right? And Jacksonville was my last stop on the train as far as the NFL, right? That's how I got my walking papers from Jacksonville. I got fired on my day off, right?
Oh, no.
Quick story, I was riding home. My wife was pregnant at the time, and she came to training camp to surprise me there. So all the kids are there. They end up staying, I guess, maybe a week or two, right? But then we get ready to come back because the kids got to start school, I guess, or whatever. I'm having a break right before the season, and I miss a call on the airplane, right? And I'm not really thinking anything of it. I just think it's one of the coaches maybe checking in, because I thought I was a shoe-in to make the team. I had followed Gus Bradley to Jacksonville, who was the defensive coordinator at the Seahawks at the time, and then he was the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. So I was like, okay, yeah, I'm cool. I'm older now, so I might be kind of like a player coach. I really might not have to do much, but I'm gonna go down there and I'm gonna collect a check, though. I'm gonna make it happen, right? But didn't quite go that way. But Jacksonville was an eye opener for me because it was tougher than I thought it was, right? I was in a nice city, closer to the facility, and I was staying in this little condo, but I would drive him around the city. I'd be like, okay. I would go over a couple blocks, and I'd be like, okay, I probably should put my valuables in the trunk and make sure that the door is locked, right?
It's a different world.
And it's like that in a lot of cities, but I didn't really know about that, man. And so from what I know of Jacksonville, it does have that underdog feel, right? And that grit, exactly like you talk about. So I can really appreciate the city, but overall, Jacksonville is not for me, right? I went down there, I spent a little time there, but I couldn't wait to get back home, right?
Yep.
I was spoiled as far as being with the Seahawks for as long as I was, but at the time, Jacksonville was going through like a transition, and they were building their new facilities. It's not what they have now. We was eating lunch. I felt like it was in a dungeon. There was no windows. It was scary. It was dark down in the locker room. It just wasn't that type of life around the facility, and I was spoiled. If you go to the Seahawks facility now, man, it's on the water. Everything's bright. Man, it's beautiful. And it was a little bit different in Jacksonville. So I had my opportunity at training camp out there playing in black jerseys in the 100-degree weather. I didn't like that either.
No.
But it didn't work out for me, but I think overall that was the best thing that could have happened to me. Shortly after that, I retired. I was like, I'm tired of flying around, trying to act like I'm not old, I guess, in locker room years. But it was time for me to go, man. My body was beat up and all that, but yeah.
Well, then you came back and you signed a one-day contract to retire as a Seahawk, right?
Yes.
Had to put down for Washington.
Yeah, had to put it down, man. There was no way that I was gonna to retire as a Jacksonville Jaguar when I spent so many years here in Washington, man. So much love, so much support here. I got my Tacoma roots here, so I had to do it here, man. And I did the press conference, man. I invited all my friends and family out, man. Some of my coaches from my youth years in basketball and football. So it was a good deal, man. It was a feel-good thing, and I wouldn't change it for anything.
I love it, man. So tell us about your foundation. You transitioned now out of the NFL. You started doing some entrepreneurship stuff. You've run businesses. Tell us about what happened after the NFL.
Right after the NFL, man, or on my way out of the NFL, you kind of see the writing on the wall, right? It's getting harder to get ready for practice. And it's getting, and there's young guys coming in every year, and they are great, right? I tell people all the time, or do they know of a guy named Richard Sherman, right? Mm-hmm. And that's the guy that came in and took my spot, right? You can't make the team if you got injuries and all that kind of stuff, and it's all about opportunities. When people get opportunities, it was the same for me. My first years, it was Sean Springs was here, and the injuries that jumped on his back, and he was getting older, so I got my opportunity. And it was the same with me. And Richard Sherman, hell of a player, and I can say that he probably would have made it anyway, but, of course, I get injured, and then you get your opportunity, right? And that's just how it works. So that was just a part of the game and the transition. So you start to think to yourself, okay, what are my next steps going to be?
What's my exit strategy?
Yeah. What's my exit strategy? And in the back of your mind, you hear of all the horror stories and everything about guys who leave the game, and just the numbers of guys going broke, guys that get divorces, and all this other type of stuff, even suicide, all this type of mental stuff, right? Yeah. So you start to try to plan, man. I started looking at real estate deals. I started looking at all types of different stuff. And I had been, of course, I was doing my foundation first. I started that like my first year that I got to the NFL, but just that exit strategy, I knew I wanted to get into something. So what I do now, I do some real estate. I'm involved in self-storage projects. I want to do more. I'm going to start a speaking tour. I've been working on that. I am going to continue to do my nonprofit work. I'm going to just continue to grow, man. I have my podcast. And, man, it's just so many things that I want to touch on, man, especially just like in the business world. I want to continue to grow. I want to continue to network. I'm still young, right? But I guess in football years, I'm old. I got gray hair, and that's just how it works. But
it's like dog years. There's a different math there.
I got a lot of life to live, though, man, and I want to make things happen. I got a lot of dreams and goals still. I've already checked off a dream, but I want to continue to go, man. I want to go higher. I want to do some big stuff. So, man, I'm going to continue to work and just continue to meet people and, man, try to go to the moon.
I love it, man. Tell us about the foundation. How can people follow the foundation? What is the foundation's goals, aspirations? What do you see for the future of the foundation?
Yes, the Trufant Family Foundation is just that. It's started with me and my mom and my dad and my brothers, my aunts and uncles, and everybody's involved as far as volunteering and doing all that kind of stuff. When we used to do these public, family-friendly events, everybody used to love the bowling tournaments and stuff we did for a long time. And back then, you could pretty much get the whole team would come out as far as the Seahawks, right? Wow. But it's a little bit different now. You got social media, and everybody has their own brands and different stuff. It's just a different style, or I would say the world's in a different place. But the Trufant Family Foundation, today we focus on education, and we give scholarships, and we've been giving scholarships to all of the high schools in Tacoma for a long time now, for over 20 years, right?
Wow.
And these are partial scholarships. Of course, these aren't full ride scholarships, but they're renewable scholarships that kids can come back every year and they can get these scholarships, man. So at TrufantFamilyFoundation.com, or you can go to MarcusTrufant.com. There's more information there, and we're always looking for donations, always looking for volunteers, always looking for partners to grow, man, because the youth is our future, man. And education is just a piece of what you could give a young lady or a young man, just a leg up as far as going forward and trying to achieve their goals. So we're just trying to be there, man, and give those services in between, man. If you're at school and you can't eat, or you can't get to where you're going, or if you don't have the support, it makes it tough. So we do include those wraparound services as well. So, yeah, man, we're just trying to encourage the young people.
I love it, man. Well, if there's anything I can do beyond a donation, I'm happy to make a donation today. We'll do that off camera. I want to support the organization, but I also want to be involved and a mouthpiece for what you're doing. It's so important that people don't forget those roots, and that, Tacoma is such a big part of who we were and who we still are, that showing up for the city the way that even if one person did that for us, it could have helped so much, but that that growth that we created and our network helped us to create, we have to give that back to the next generation of people, the next lawyers and NFL players and mayors or whoever else, you know? And so it's just, you never know who you're helping with this kind of support, and it's just so important, man, and it's so inspirational for me. So thank you.
Absolutely. And you hit it on the head, man. You never know what a conversation, high five, partial scholarship, or anything is going to do for a child and who they're going to be. So, yeah, man, I feel that. I feel it.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Well, thank you so much, Marcus, for being a part of the podcast. Any closing remarks, any last advice, any last plugs of any of the social medias or anything? What do you want to share?
Yeah, last plugs would be follow me at Marcus_Trufant on Instagram. Follow my wife and I's podcast at TrulyUnruly_podcast on Instagram. And you can follow my wife, Jessica_Trufant as well. And yeah, check out the Trufant Family Foundation. You can go to MarcusTrufant.com and everything's there. And I appreciate y'all.
Thank you. Thank you so much, buddy.